Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and to another round of the Animal Artist Collective. If you're new to the Animal Artist Collective videos, let me tell you a little bit more about it. The Animal Artist Collective was founded by Jennifer Charlie of Jennifer Charlie Art and Denise Soden of In Liquid Colour as a platform for emerging artists to promote positive messages for animal welfare and conservation and to connect artists to their communities. All of the original artwork produced for the Animal Artist Collective is always made available for sale, and at least 50% of the proceeds are donated to a non-profit animal conservation organisation. Every other month we create pieces of art based around a theme voted for by you guys. So if you want to have your say on next round's theme, you can now vote over on our Facebook page with the link in the description below. Unofficial participation is absolutely welcomed in the form of videos and artwork, and if you do happen to create a piece, make sure you share it with us on our social media pages. The links to all of those can be found below as well. So this round's theme is birds, something I absolutely love drawing, so this made me a very happy Amie. Although when it came to picking, panic kind of set in a little, as it usually does with the Animal Artist Collective things. I'm sensing a theme here, but I could not decide what on earth to draw. Do I go for something exotic and fun to draw? Maybe something a little bit more on the vulnerable side to raise awareness for it? I had so many ideas floating around in my head, as birds is such a broad topic with so many different species. But in the end, I decided to go with something very close to home and personal, and a bird which I relate to in so many different ways, and this is also one which I call my spirit animal. I went with the duck. Yep, a duck, but specifically the mallard duck, because there are different varieties, but this one I've decided to focus on is the mallard duck. Of all the things I could have chosen, this was mine. Now, these might seem like generic creatures. A duck seems pretty standard when it comes to birds, but to me these creatures are magnificent, and they are a creature which I have always loved. They're my favourite things ever, and I couldn't just pass up the opportunity to draw one and feature it for you guys. Now, I'm not going to be relaying facts about these guys as I usually do in the other AAC videos. They're not on the vulnerable list. In fact, there are a lot of them around. They're listed as least concern. So instead, I'm going to share with you a bit more of an anecdotal and personal experience of these creatures and why I consider these my spirit animal before telling you a little bit about the process for this piece. I'm not exactly sure where my love of ducks started. It could have been my first visit to the duck pond, perhaps a big pair of fluffy duck slippers I had as a child, or possibly something that I'd seen on the TV, but I remember always having a really strong connection with them. As a toddler learning to speak, my first proper word, other than mama or dada, like the usual first words, my first word was duck. So it's pretty safe to say that my affinity with them started very young. My mum was actually talking to me about this a while ago and told me about a visit to the duck pond which resulted in me repeating this newly learned word over and over as the adorable little creatures just waddled and swam about. I have absolutely no recollection of this event, but I can kind of picture it in my mind based on how my son acts when he learns a new word, and it was probably pretty funny. So I also had, as I mentioned, a big pair of fluffy duck slippers. I think I must have been about almost 2 when I had these slippers. I remember visiting my nan with our brand new puppy, our golden retriever puppy, and I remember having these slippers on. I think I must have got them for Christmas or something, and I remember how much the dog, the puppy, absolutely loved these slippers as well, to the point that he was actually tugging and playing with the slippers on my feet, and I was getting really annoyed that this dog, this new object in our lives, was playing with my duck slippers. It was unbearable, and I just remember this dog pulling on the slippers to the point that he pulled them off and then started shaking them and just like tearing them apart. They weren't harmed, just to let you guys know, but I was like distraught. I just kept crying and crying. Nothing could console me because this this dog had my duck slippers, and it was the end of the world. In addition to these duck slippers, I also had a duck stuffed toy, which I have to this day. I'll insert a picture of this duck stuffed toy. I love this thing. Obviously, I love it that much that I now have it as a almost 29-year-old adult. But this was one of my favourite childhood toys. Again, it just sort of reaffirms the fact that ducks are my favourite, and obviously as a child I was just like, duck, duck, duck. So it's not just me in my family that absolutely loves ducks. My son, James, also loves them, and he has recently learnt the word duck. I didn't force this word on him by any means. He is really into watching adverts on their TV at the moment, and there's this advert in the UK at the moment, I'm not sure if it's anywhere else, but there is a Disney advert where this little duckling sees a magazine with Donald Duck in it and he absolutely falls in love. I can so relate to this advert, by the way. He falls in love with this magazine with Donald Duck, he takes it everywhere, and eventually he loses the magazine and he's like all sad and everything, and then his duck parents fly him to Disneyland and he gets to meet Donald Duck, and it's the cutest thing ever. It actually makes me cry. But James loves this advert, and every time it comes on he says duck, and he repeats it much, I suppose, like I used to when I used to visit the duck pond. So yeah, James loves ducks as well apparently, and now whenever he sees something bird-like he says duck. So I think he's gonna love ducks as much as me, which makes me very, very happy. So I mentioned that the duck was my spirit animal, and I just want to elaborate on that. See, I associate most with ducks because of the way they are. Someone kind of picked up on this and explained it to me on a live stream once, except they didn't use a duck, they used a swan. They said that I was graceful and serene on the outside, like a swan is, nice and white and graceful, but underneath, like, the feet are going crazy and I'm just paddling mad, and I relate to that so much. On the outside, I'm sort of colourful, like a mallard duck, you know, blue hair, a little bit kind of dopey looking, because ducks are kind of dopey, and like just kind of a little bit graceful. But then as soon as you get underneath and you get to know me, I am just absolutely crazy. The feet are going wild, and just sort of, you know, that kind of thing is just relates to me so much. I can associate with it so much, and yeah, there's just many different aspects of the duck and their characteristics and their personalities that I can relate to myself. So that's kind of why I see the duck as my kind of spirit animal. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about this piece. I mentioned that the reason that I wanted to draw this was because to challenge myself with the iridescent feathers. It's not something that I have really tackled before. I've kind of done a few iridescent feathers on like a hummingbird, but never anything in this colour palette. So I wanted to experiment to see if I could kind of get that kind of look across with my drawing, and again I also just thought it would be a good challenge for some of my students to do as well. So this was a reference picture that I actually found on Pixabay. I'll link it below if anybody wants to go and check it out, and I used a lot of different blue and green tones for this because the way that you have to kind of create iridescent feathers is to use like complementing or harmonious colours, harmonious colour palette. So I picked out a lot of yellows fading into bright greens, and then dark greens, and then blues, and then I used those in conjunction. So the way that I did this was I put like a yellow colour down first, then I went in with a light green, a little bit of orange. I also then went and moved into like the mid-tone greens, moving into darker greens, and then blues and dark blues, and I used the colours in that sequence to try and create this iridescent nature of the feathers, and I think I kind of pulled it off as well as I possibly could. I don't think that this could have gone any better for me personally. The contrasts in this piece are great. I think you really do get a nice iridescent feel and vibe from the head of the duck. The feathers, I just love all of the colours and everything used throughout this piece. I think it is probably one of my favourite colour palettes so far this year. The bill of the duck was also a real treat to draw. It's such a contrasting texture to the rest of the duck, and it is something that I really enjoyed, and I actually used a whole range of colours in here. And I love the way that the yellow of the bill of the bird is reflected through some of the yellow sort of iridescent nature of the feathers as well. I tried to incorporate the yellow throughout the whole of the piece, so in the little ring of white feathers around the neck I've included yellow, on the back of the duck, the kind of wing area, I've included yellow as well. So I've really tied all of these colours, even the blues I've used everywhere. I've used blues in the beak, I've used blues in the sort of black parts of the duck. I have tried to just really incorporate this colour palette across the entire bird, and I think it works really well. For the texture of the feathers on the sort of dark breast of the bird, I did that first of all just by layering down dark colours. So I made that dark tone first. I laid down some walnut brown. I also used some dark indigo and some other blues and some purple tones as well, and layered those down to get a really nice dark base. Blended it out with a little bit of a Derwent blender. And then I actually went in with a white pencil, and I also used my slice scalpel tool thing, and I created the white highlights on top, which was a much easier way to do this than to sort of work in a negative space way. I think if I'd have left spaces for each of these little white sections, this would have taken me an absolute age. But I worked with the dark base and then added the white over the top, and that's really easy to do with colour pencil when you use a solvent. Actually, I used a Derwent blender, which is an alcohol based blender, but if you use a solvent or any kind of blender like that, it's so much easier to add white over dark. And the slice tool actually did scrape away some of the coloured pencil, even though I had gone in and blended, which was fantastic. So that was a really good experience to try and create that texture. When I first looked at it, I was like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? But I kind of overcame it and just thought kind of logically around it, and I think the outcome of it was actually really great. I didn't add too much texture into the wing of the bird because I didn't want to add too much detail there and take away from the feature and your gaze from the head. I wanted the head and those iridescent feathers to be the main focus, and so I didn't add any sort of detail into the wing area. Instead, I just used some really soft shading, blended out with a solvent and a white pencil, added in those blue tones, just kind of blurred everything together. I found that when I was shading with the side of the pencil on the paper that I was kind of getting this grain effect, and that kind of mimicked the texture which was going on the wing area anyway, so I just kind of left it like that, really subtle, kind of grainy, kind of almost texture, and that meant that I could keep the focus on the face and the feathers of the duck, which was my main focus, and I think I have achieved that. So overall, I am really pleased with this piece. I loved drawing it. I just love the animal, so I really did enjoy the whole process of this piece, and I really hope that you guys have too. This piece is available for purchase through my webshop. I'll leave a link below if you fancy snapping up this piece to add to your collection of art. 50% of the proceeds will be going towards my chosen charity, which is the RSPB. This is a bird-specific charity, and there are dedicated sanctuaries for birds run by this charity throughout the UK, and I really highly recommend you go and visit one and do a little bird spotting and learning about all your native species of birds. It's a really fun day out for your family. Don't forget to check out the other birdie pieces from all the other members of the collective, and I would like to say hello and welcome to our guest artist this month, Katie. Her channel is linked below along with all of the other artists participating. Go and check out all of the amazing pieces that they have created. You will not be disappointed. If you like this video, then make sure you give it a big thumbs up with that button below, and if you're new around here, hit that subscribe button and join my coloured pencil family. I upload new videos every single week to help you along with your coloured pencil journey. Anyway guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!